Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Al Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 117 Intermediate AutoCAD in our weekly Zoom meeting. Module 3 has been released. Module 3 is to create this drawing front, top, and right side view and the 3D model. Al, with these other models here, are these bonus assignments or are these required?
Good thing you're asking. Yes, no, they're all bonus acquired. They're 30 points, they're 5 points apiece. So that's what they are. And if you throw in a 3D part of it, that's an extra 10 points. So basically you can get almost up to 15 extra points for each one of them. So as you see right below, you can do one of those, you get extra 15 points. So just name it 3C, 3D, and 3E.
Great. So they will have to do this model right here. All right, that's a 30-point model with the front, top, and right side view and the 3D.
Right.
And then these are bonus.
Right, and number two. B2.
And then let's take a look at this.
That's our video.
And so this video goes through the construction techniques for the model.
It does a fantastic job.
Great. And let's pause that. Let's go back to our main splash page. Am I in the right class? No.
No,
I don't know why it does that. I think it's because of the videos. When I go to a video that was created a different semester, it leaves me.
Why don't we stop this and go again?
You're going to use a metric title block for these. And so by downloading the metric title block, when you work with metric units, they're going to be larger. And so when we look at the overall size of this object, let's see if we have a dimension that I can pull off of it. So the part is 47.6 by 47.6 by 63. So by downloading the metric title block and then drawing these lines, if I put on a snap and I don't see my snap, so I'm going to go to my drafting settings, snap and grid, and I'm going to set that up as, let's set that up as 1 millimeter, and then let's set this as 10 millimeters. When we work with the metric title block, we're then able to use much larger units. And so I think it was 46.7. Don't remember the exact number. Let's just call it 47.
I thought it was 47.6 by 47.6 by 6.
You're usually right, Al. So as we work with these larger units, you will have the ability to work within that at the proper scale. And then we'll put those objects in the title block. There it is. And the finished drawing will look like this. Add the dimensions to that as well. And then you can work on these other exercises if you'd like the bonus points. Going back to last week's lab, last week you were to create the front, top, and right side views of the auxiliary drawings. There was also a number of bonus drawing assignments. And so this was the assignment that's required. You need to make these 9 views, and then you're to model those. Here's the bonus. And so these are additional drawings that you can create. And here's the 3D models. If you're looking at where we are in the course, you should be checking the outline of topics. And so if we come and take a look at the outline of topics, today is September 15th, and we're covering chapter 3 and 4 from the Technical Drawing 101 book. And we're also looking at creating primitives and composites from the Advanced Applications textbook. So if we are to look at chapter 3, actually, I have chapter 4. Let's take a look at chapter 3 is traditional drafting tools. There's not a lot in there, to tell you the truth, as far as other than being able to read scales and things like that. So as we look at this, chapter 3, we have very few drafting tables now. Back when we built the Skokie campus in 2005, we kept all the drafting tables in the drafting lab. But here we are 15 years later, and nobody drafts with them. They're really more like work tables. Not to say that you wouldn't be drafting if you had a job in this field. Oftentimes you'll pull these prints, but it's just much more accurate to work with CAD. And so as we look at traditional drafting techniques, it's a lot of work. You have to get the paper, you have to scale the paper, you have to have a lot of tools to be able to work with pencil drawings. And then you have to calculate the measurements with a ruler as we go through and we create those shapes. So it's basically an understanding of how traditional drafting techniques work. Working with protractors, angles, takes much, much, much more time to create pencil drawings than it does to do CAD drawings. In fact, I used to teach the drafting classes up at Northern Illinois University with a pencil. And I taught a 3D drafting class called Auxiliary Projections, which was basically isometric drawings. And I taught a number of other technical drawing courses. And what you would do is you would get the paper, you would scale it, you would figure out how the part would fit on the paper at scale. And then you would start to lay out that drawing with very light line weights. And then projecting the front, top, and right side view. As we look at chapter 4 in technical drawing, we're looking at CAD now, computer-aided design, and going through the interface and working with these different types of coordinates. And so a lot of this we have already learned in CAD 116. Understanding the terminology, understanding the vocabulary, working with toolbars, etc. The textbook is good once we start getting into some of the more advanced chapters, because this is basically sort of a review of what we did in 116. And so these are just basic draw commands with CAD, working with Cartesian coordinate systems, and being able to understand how to do the measurements with CAD system. So there's a significant amount of information there for the CAD information. But what we're really looking towards is doing the three-dimensional work, because most people, once they get into the second class, want to start to learn how to model. And as we look at creating primitives and composites, this chapter works really well for us. We can work with a 3D interface or a 3D workspace by going into our CAD system. And let's pull up one of our 3D drawings. And then switching over our workspace to 3D modeling. And when
How do you do that again, Joe?
You hit this gear right here.
Yes.
And then you enable 3D modeling.
And left click on that? Wow.
That's correct.
Cool.
And I also like to turn on the menu bar. It sort of resets it. So I'll reset the menu bar as well. And then as we look at some of these 3D commands, these are called primitives. And primitives are boxes, cylinders, cones, etc. So when we switch over to CAD, and we're working in model space, let's just go with an isometric view. And then if I wanted to work with my UCS, I'm going to set my UCS to the default UCS. And the default is going to be world. And so if I select world, then I reset the XY coordinate. And then if I wanted to use primitives, I could do things like creating a box. Cylinders. Columns. And what's nice is these are solid models. We can 3D print them as well. Switching back to the textbook. So as we go through and we create these different primitives, you can see there's different construction techniques for them. Planar solids, boxes. They spend quite a bit of time explaining how to draw something that I could show on a YouTube video quite quickly. And then they do things like work with Boolean operations where they'll start to combine these different shapes and be able to add and subtract them. So as we go into our work with 3D, we can go through and create something like, let's go and change color. And let's use a sphere. And then we can go here and put a sphere on a corner with a 3D O snap. Shift middle mouse key can rotate the screen. And then you can do these Boolean operations like subtraction, where we can select the larger shape, hit enter, and then select the part to be removed from that. So solid modeling has a lot of advantages as we start to work with it. Wireframe, visual styles. Typically, Al and I will work with conceptual. And then constructing on different planes. You also need to make sure that you set these as regions or closed polygon shapes. Because if it's not a closed polygon shape when you draw it, so for example, if I drew lines, like that, and then I wanted to extrude that. When I extrude it, it'll appear like it's a surface. And if I turn off the visual style, it'll look kind of like a net or a spider web. And I'm using a center line type so you can see the dashes. But essentially, this is not workable for 3D printing. Solid modeling is much better application. And again, being able to combine these different shapes with these Boolean properties is where the power comes from when we start to learn how to model these different shapes. Things like creating helixes. And then you can sweep things along those helixes. And then here's what I was talking about. You need a region or a closed polygon shape to create a solid model. So as you take a look at the chapters, take a look at the chapters that are assigned to you in the outline of topics. If we come back to our outline of topics here, we're on task. We're at the 9:15 mark, and we're covering the correct chapters. Next week, we'll go into dimensioning mechanical drawings, and we'll start bringing in standards for creating your drawings, things like what height the text should be, how to set those up according to American National Standards Institute for ANSI 14 point something. All right, Al, is there anything else that we want to cover?
No, if you go back to the splash page real quick for a minute, thank you very much, and go down a little bit, please. And as you can tell, step by step is in purple because you know anything in purple color is a video. Metric paper right there is automatically in green because that's a drawing or part of a drawing. Then you have the shortcuts. People would like to know, hey, can I do shortcuts with it? Yes, you can. And you have to zoom up on this, but yes, there's a shortcut. So you can use 2 letters, 3 letters, 1 letter, depending on what you're looking for and how you want to use it. That will come up on the board itself. Then also, if you still have a little trouble, you're not too sure, and whatever else, you can also VPN into the server of Open and use their softwares too. There's also right there, there's also all the nice little stuff to go along with it. There's also DG Lab 3C. If you click on that one time, please. Open it up, please. What this will show you is one of your drawings that are extra bonuses. And as we talked about the bonuses real quickly before, the regular 3 views, front, top, and right-hand side, fully dimensioned, by the way, and also with hidden line, dash lines, or whatever the case would be, needed for that. If you have that top right-hand corner where you see that 3-dimensional object, okay, the solid piece, that's an extra 15 points. So you get an extra 20 points for each of your drawings, which is fantastic.
Yeah, so there's plenty of bonus content. We realize that it's a different environment out there. But if you have the time and you enjoy working on the CAD system, Al and I will be more than happy to walk you through these techniques with AutoCAD.
And if you click on 3, there you go, 3A. And 3A is just a larger picture of that, a different style of a metric paper, but it's there. And if you click on a metric paper B size right there, quick, there we go. And it automatically opens up. That's this one right here. And they're looking at the larger portion of it, which is fine. So you get the B size metric paper template either on this splash page or the content, either way. The content member is a meat and potatoes of it all. The splash page is a little taste for you.
Sounds good, Al. So Al's our D2L guy. He's got everything set and color coded for you. Here's our outline of, here's our list of when things are due. Make sure you get module 1 turned in today by 11:30 p.m. And then module 2 is due next week. And then everything starts to come into play, or at least come into being due every week following that. With that, I'm going to wrap up this meeting. Thanks for attending our Zoom meeting, and I'm going to stop the recording and open things up for questions.